Welcome. I'm Richard HAASNOOT, and this is the Advanced Wisdom Series. My goal with this is to help you live more of a wisdom-inspired life, which is the highest form of life that humans are capable of living. I'm going to be making some specific suggestions through quotes and additional comments on how you can do that. The wisdom in this series comes from three God-realized enlightened avatars that I've studied the most: Krishna, Jesus, and Paramahansa Yogananda. As God-realized enlightened avatars, they know God. So when you read their words or hear their words, you know you're hearing the wisdom of God. Okay? So, with that said, let's dive into the quotes for today. Quote, "By contacting God in the world and in meditation, all desires of the heart are fulfilled. For nothing is more worthwhile, more pleasant or attractive than the all-satisfying, ever-new joy of God." If you ever wanted a single sentence to fully describe robustly and passionately the benefits of having a connection to God, this quote kind of did that. So how do you go about doing that? Well, there's some methods that are pretty well known. Prayer and meditation are at the top of the list, especially meditation. Living a life of service to others and compassion and relieving the suffering of others. And also studying the sacred texts, as do I, on a regular basis. So contacting God the rewards are overwhelmingly joyful. Okay? Next quote. "Freedom means the power to act by soul guidance." Soul is the spark of divinity in all of us. "Not by the compulsions of desires and habits. Obeying the ego leads to bondage. Obeying the soul brings liberation." And by liberation, we're talking about liberation and graduating from, eventually, the human kingdom to the divine or spiritual kingdom. Okay? So, obeying the ego leads to bondage. And the vast majority of people on this earth today lead a life guided by their ego, which does lead to bondage, attachment, and all kinds of complications in life. So how do you live a life where you're guided by your soul? Again, serving others, a life of service to others, and love and compassion. Love in your heart, love for others. Compassion is, I feel your pain and I want to help relieve your suffering. A wonderful form of service. The second way that we can live a life obeying our soul, is to practice mindfulness. Okay, similar to meditation, but mindfulness I want to focus on here, in which we are very self-aware. We're very mindful of what's going on in our head, the choices we're making, why we're making the choices, are there better choices we can make? All that is part of mindfulness. And the last thing that I'll suggest is follow your inner guidance. The ultimate form of inner guidance is your intuition. Your intuition is the voice of your soul. Your soul is that spark of divinity in all of us. And intuition is a form of deep inner knowing, where the inner knowing is clear and compelling. Okay? The next quote, I think, is very relevant to part of what I've been talking about here. The Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita was written in the original human language of Sanskrit about 5,000 or so years ago. One can never be too sure when they're talking about what happened 5,000 years ago. The Bhagavad Gita, a comprehensive metaphysical and psychological treatise, describes all experiences that will come to the spiritual traveler on the path to emancipation. And I've read through this many, many times, and this is a wonderful description of it. This is the Bhagavad Gita is kind of a guidebook to achieving enlightenment. It's a guidebook for those of us on a spiritual journey. We know where we're going and how to get there. So, the Bhagavad Gita is a special spiritual text in many ways because it has universal relevance. The teachings transcend religious, cultural, and temporal boundaries, making them relevant to people of all backgrounds and beliefs. It is a magnificent contribution. Okay? It contains a tremendous amount of practical wisdom, specific steps you can take, specific understandings of gradations and other sorts of things. It's a tremendously helpful document. And it has a tremendous amount of emphasis on self-realization. In other words, achieving enlightenment, the highest level of spiritual progress, where God-realized enlightened avatars have gone before us. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, being one of those, shows us the way. So it's a tremendous sacred text. Well, as always, I'm deeply appreciative of you watching this Advanced Wisdom series. I look forward to reconnecting with you, and I want to thank you very much for watching this episode.